Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. Today we're going to give you 6 easily avoided career-killing mistakes. I have to say I'm kind of pleased with myself for that top copy. That was pretty good.
Says what it is.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
That's right. Does it seem like everything is harder right now? Well, correct these easy-to-remedy common mistakes in real estate and unlock your momentum. There are deals everywhere, but you have to be more disciplined, more skilled, and more savvy to find them now that the market has finally shifted largely away from FOMO. For those of you who don't know, that is fear of missing out. So what are the top 6 mistakes? And we're not going to tell you just the mistakes, but also how to fix them ASAP. So each one of these mistakes has a little mini action plan for you.
And
Ready
we're
to get
probably,
started?
let's get started, but we're probably going to come up with more than 6. I just scanned your points.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Bonus points, warning. Okay, so top 6 and more. #1, playing the waiting game. We hear this far too often on coaching calls, and I see it posted on social media. Playing the waiting game. Yes.
This applies, this applies not just to you, dear listener, but also if you hear these waiting game words out of your prospective buyers, you also should apply the same coaching when you're deciding whether you want to work with that person. If they're waiting for the sky to fall, waiting for prices to drop, waiting. In other words, their version of what should happen in the future.
Procrastinating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not real buyers. And if you're playing the waiting game, well, guess what? You might be setting yourself up to fail.
That's right. And it does come in many flavors. Waiting for the market to crash, waiting for interest rates to come down, waiting for inventory. Waiting doesn't get transactions into your pipeline, nor does it help your clients and prospects achieve their goals, to your exact point. You must take control of your day, your week, your month, your quarter, and your year to defeat the waiting game. You can say this at least 10 times. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. The other affirmation I like is, I'm a doer. I do things now. I get things done. Good luck procrastinating on that.
It's funny how frequently people will quote that. So you might want to say both of those again.
I know. Well, I use them all the time. So the first one is showing that you own your success or lack thereof. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That gets you out of the waiting game. The other one is, I'm a doer. I do things now. I get things done. Those are great, short, memorable affirmations. So what are the action steps to get out of playing the waiting game? Well, accept the fact that there are 0 indicators that the market's going to crash. 0. Don't you think we would tell you about it? We talk to you every day. While there are some price ranges in some markets, some price changes in some markets, this year is set to close within 5 to 9% increase in home values. And some markets are already on track to be more like 9 to 10%. Low inventory, stable demand, lots of new construction, and rising prices are not indicators of a housing crash. If any of this changes, we will let you know.
Now, this is such a hot button topic.
I know.
Though I have to say the YouTube doomsdayers are starting to fade.
They're settling a little bit.
A little bit because they're realizing really how wrong they were. Mm-hmm. But it is really extraordinarily interesting from a marketing perspective when I look at, if someone puts, even if Julie and I, we don't do this, but if we were to put up a clickbaity article about how the sky is falling and home values are going to crash and all these other things, you guys are going to watch the hooey out of that thing. You're going to click the snot out of that because there's something inside all of us that want to have, I don't know what it is. People want to have the sky fall.
It's on the drama radar somehow.
And from coaching for decades and having literally hundreds of thousands of coaching calls, I think I know the reason. So if you find yourself being attracted to doomsday things, if you find yourself, believing or starting to allow yourself to be seduced into believing that tomorrow won't be better than today, what you're really doing is a very elaborate form of being lazy. And I'm going to explain to you why. So if you don't believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today, what does that mean you're not going to do today, right? If you believe that, for example, the world's going to come to an end at the end of this year, what are you not going to be doing, today? I know you're probably not going to be working that hard. You're sure as hell not going to be going on, you're not going to the gym probably, I'm guessing.
Nope.
You're not going to be saving money. You're not going to be doing all the things that you need to do in order to make your tomorrow better than today, you see? So if you believe the sky is going to fall, if you believe the home values are going to crash, if you believe all these negative, nasty things, how do you know if you believe those things? Look to see what you're consuming. If I were to look at your YouTube feed, as I was just talking about, or any of these other social things, and look at all your suggested things that it's suggesting for you, does the algorithm think that you like, you like to doom scroll? If it thinks that, it's because you do. So a good suggestion for a lot of you would be to Julie's point, if it's meant to be up to me, it's up to me. Realize what you're feeding yourself and realize why you're doing it. You're doing it so that you won't have to make yourself uncomfortable today. You're trying to look for a reason why, and it's kind of a subconscious game, right?
It's confirmation bias. You're looking for a reason to back up your thought that why should I bother because the world's going to end.
I normally would go to that for sale by owner and, make myself uncomfortable and have to learn a script and pre-qualify and all the rest of it and face rejection, all that. But you know what? I don't believe, why should I bother? I mean, the world's coming to an end in 12 months.
Houses are harder to sell now because rates are high. So,
exactly. All that for sale. You guys get it? You see how you guys can call it mindset, and it is, but really what you're seeing is how one thought compounds and compounds and compounds. And the next thing you know, you've lost a year. Then you've lost 5 years. Then you've lost a decade. Then you basically are looking back, realizing that past decade was one of the best decades ever in real estate, and you were sitting on the sidelines waiting for the sky to fall. Don't let that happen to you. Some of you are still licking your wounds from the real estate crash that happened over 15 years ago.
Cut that out, please. So the waiting game, other things you might be waiting for. Interest rates, yes, they will eventually get lower. They've already gotten a bit lower. But are they likely to go to 5.5 or even 6.5? Probably not for the near future. That doesn't mean people aren't transacting. There literally are millions of homes transacting this year. Stop wishing for the old market and embrace the new market. It is normalizing. If you're thinking that rates are going to crash and the buyers you're potentially talking to are totally fine with the payment they've been pre-qualified for, well, then you might be part of the problem.
Well, exactly. So you're married to the rate, you're the one that's got the 3% in your head.
Because it was easier for you.
Go back to Julie's first point, okay? She was talking about the fact that, and you guys could Google this yourself, right? We're nerds and we pay attention to stuff like you can't believe. But the inflation rate is, right now, it's going to be at least 5% overall. Okay, 5%, 6%. That means the cost of things in general, consumer products, are going to go up by 5 or 6% per year. That's the reason that now they're starting to say there's not going to be a cut to the Fed rate in the first quarter, though they are predicting there'll still be 2 additional Fed rate cuts this year. The inflation is not going away. Julie and I have been telling you that for 3 or 4 years. It is going to obviously be at this simmering rate, and then you're going to start seeing the government is going to start saying, well, guess what? The new, our new target rate is no longer 2%. It's now going to be 4 or 5% or 6%. That's what's going to have to happen because it's going to be 4 or 5 or 6%. Why am I telling you this? Because if the buyer has to agree to pay an interest rate that they don't like, you have to do a little bit of what we call math for that buyer. If they're wanting to buy a $400,000 house, and let's say, real estate increases in your particular market by another 6 or 7% per year, if you do the math, that $400,000 house, look at the principal payments. Let's say they have to borrow money at 6 or 6.5 or even 7%. Oh gosh!
Oh no!
I mean, our first mortgage when we got married was 7%,
and we were happy about it.
Thrilled! People congratulated us.
I know.
All right. So the moral of the story is the interest they'll pay on the loan will be less than, most likely, the amount of increased value or appreciation or equity that house will have basically built. So they will be saving more money, through essentially the appreciation of that home, or really the inflation of that home, and an amount that's going to be greater than the interest rate, the interest that they'll have paid on that loan for the last 12 months. You guys have to do the math, correctly for your particular market, but you need to think like that because that's the reality. And if you're looking for a buyer to say, well, I'm looking for rates to fall, I'm looking for, home prices to fall, you're going to have to then explain to them, well, if it's 12 months from now and the home that you bought today for $400 is now going to be, say, $425 or $430, and the interest rate and your payment on your rent, if they're renting, is now going to be, it's going to increase. Obviously, rents are going to, they're going to go up with inflation. What position will you be happier have, what decision will you be happier of having made now in 12 months being in a house where you build equity, where, essentially the market's now working for you, opposed to you watching more of your money get sucked away through, rental expense.
Paying rent is 100% interest. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
basically.
You're literally digging your hole deeper.
You guys get it? This is where you have to develop the skills to know how to basically work with your consumers so that you help them move past the procrastination, because guess what they're doing? They're watching they're doom scrolling too. They're reading all the bad news too. And you're going to have to help them remove their fear and have them start focusing on, the future, just like I was in that little script I just gave you guys. Because a lot of times they're going to be very grateful for you having helped them to clear their minds from all this, the doom scrolling that they've been addicted to. And I'm going to give you guys a little mindset point along those lines. If you do take this seriously, which all of you should, and you're now realizing that you're awash with, really depressing news. It's just something that you've gotten in the habit of, consuming, and all your friends and family do the same thing. I have a challenge for you. I want you to, and this will be difficult for many of you, I want you to purge yourself or purge all forms of media from your life except this podcast for like a day, and then go to a week, then go to 2 weeks, then go to a month. No more reading the news. No more reading to, doom scrolling type podcasts or videos. Just completely purge it from your life. And you're going to go through the same stages of withdrawal, like as if you were getting off caffeine. That's what's going to happen. It happens to all of us because your brain has gotten addicted to having that constant little dopamine hit from the latest little bit of gossipy, clickbaity headline, and it is ruining your potential. It just is. And, we have a little 10-year-old girl, Zoe, and, she's off all of her screens. No iPad, no iPhone, no nothing. We are allowing her to use it for, I think I had the timer set for like a half hour a day when she got home from school. But Julie and I, after like 3 or 4 days, started noticing a change in her behavior. Even though on YouTube, she wasn't really watching we watched what she was watching. She wasn't using it on her own. We noticed a change in her behavior I
think some of it's just attention span.
It's attention span, but it's also because she wasn't interacting with us.
Yes,
she was kind of putting herself in this little screens world, even though she wasn't. Exactly, zoning out. And so, look, that's a sort of a mindset point for all of you. If you don't like the way you feel, if you don't like the way you're thinking about your potential or the future, absolutely positively start with doing a media purge. We call it media-free morning, and then you migrate to having a media-free life. You will feel amazing, because here's the thing. Nature abhors a vacuum. So when you remove the media and you remove the negativity from your life, you will literally start feeling more present, more alive, and more grateful. That's what will happen. All those feelings of negativity, which you've awashed yourself with, will be moving out slowly, painfully in some cases, and then you're going to start feeling like you're going to start connecting with this person that maybe you haven't been for a long period of time. I challenge you to test yourself and take that 24-hour challenge and move it on to a week, 2 weeks, and a month.
And that was bonus point 1.5, dear listeners, because the original point was stop waiting. But you did a great job, showing them some examples of the procrastination and some other things that get in your way. And certainly media is one of them. So other bad habit, number 2, expecting your buyers to send you what they want to look at versus you finding the right homes for them yourself. This is one of my biggest pet peeves amongst agents today, because there's all these buyers floating around there that they're pre-approved, they're all cash, they're loan committed, and they're not in contract because you haven't found them anything.
By the way, all of our show notes today are down below, so just scroll below in the show description. I know a lot of you guys use our notes for coaching or your staff, and certainly doing if you're an office manager or a broker, you can use our content for that as well. And just follow along. So scroll down below to get all of our notes. And while you're there, definitely consider joining Premier Coaching. It's the next natural step for all of you. We always have, very consistently between 100 and 200 of you join Premier Coaching every single month. The feedback we get on Premier Coaching is extraordinary. That's the reason we're so passionate about all of you, clicking down below to join Premier Coaching, or just go to premiercoaching.com. You can join Premier Coaching and have full 30-day access for free. And yes, that does include a free daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. So scroll down below, click the link, or just go to premiercoaching.com. I've timed it like 11 seconds to join Premier Coaching, and you'll have instant access, and you'll be part of the community that frankly is very light on media and very optimistic about the future. If that's how you want to be feeling and thinking and acting and behaving and getting the benefits of that, then I strongly encourage you to join our Premier Coaching community.
So if you are committing the sin of expecting your buyers to send you what they want, because let's be honest, what usually happens is a buyer will come into your life, they're an open house or a referral, however they show up, and you do a little bit of light pre-qualification. What are you looking for? Price range, whatever. You put them in your drip system in the MLS, and you wait for them to say, I saw this one. Can we get into it tomorrow? Instead, get and use the buyer presentation, which drills down on specifically what your buyer clients desire. What is a deal maker? What's a deal killer? Are both people on the same page if you're working with a couple? Can you handle objections like, I want to wait for rates to come down or prices to come down, or both? Get some help with that. And second action step, once you know what they need, that they're motivated and qualified, it is your job to find them the right home. Think out of the box. Refer to our podcast series about how to find inventory. Consider changing the type of property, the price range. Sometimes even going down market will find you something different than what you've been looking for. Expanding your geographic search or looking at new construction.
So we're about to go to the next point, which all of you guys are going to hear about, which is leads. But if you have a buyer, a CRM, and you have a lot of buyer leads, here's going to be your homework after you've decided to be media free. All the time you are wasting basically doom scrolling, here's what I want you to do. Get on the phone, call all your buyers that are in your CRM that you've been dripping on, use our buyer pre-qualification script, and pull off those low-hanging apples. Because that's the only way you're actually going to get them to work with you. Stop being all geeked up just because the heat map on your CRM is telling you that they're reading your posts and watching your videos. Call them, pre-qualify them, make that lead into an actual transaction.
Set appointments, let's say 2 or 3 days out in the future, so that you now have to go find something to show, right?
Yeah, remember, use our pre-qual script because we also want you to, and depending on the price point, if that buyer's looking and say a move up price range, whatever that is in your marketplace, chances are they're going to have a house to sell. Mm-hmm. So don't treat buyers, assume a buyer is a seller until they prove otherwise.
Very well said. That's another that's mistake number 2.5. Okay, number 3, not having enough leads in the first place. If you're struggling with lead generation, it's time to get some help before it's too late. Now more than ever, it is critical that you generate more leads than you think you need to do the business that you do need to do. So action steps. If you are struggling with lead generation, first, of course, sign up for Premier Coaching so our Harris certified coaches can help you. They're going to ask you specific questions like, where did your past 5 transactions come from? Was it luck and hopium, or did you connect with those clients through a proven system or strategy that maybe you've gotten away from? Another question might be, how many leads do you have in your pipeline? And you may have a lead conversion issue versus a lead generation issue. This is a big black hole that we talk about a lot. You might be calling something leads that are actually just contacts.
We should interject here, Julie. It is very, again, this sounds doomy and gloomy, and frankly it is for some of you who are not going to be listening to what I'm about to tell you, but there is a new guideline in place. We've done podcasts on this, yes, that somewhere in mid-2024, there's going to basically buying buyer leads from all these different portals and these lead resellers. It's going to become, dubious at best.
Well, this is an FCC ruling. This is not speculation.
Yes. So there's a new guideline that's in place, and that's going to make it so that I want you guys to think about this. Have you ever felt, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll use Julie as an example. All right. So she, years ago, was trying to get a roof estimate for one of our rental properties in a market where we didn't have a lot of contacts. So she did a little Googling. She filled out a form online. This was actually, I think, in North Carolina or maybe Texas. I don't remember. And that was a lead essentially a company that was essentially just generating leads. And then they sold those leads to like 1 billion different roofers. Not only just roofers, but they sold them to other lead generation companies that were then selling that lead to a roofing company. So I want you to think about the insanity of all that. To this day, we still get illegal communication from roofers in whatever state it was, asking if we need to have that roof fixed on. And hell, by now it's probably been like 14 years ago. Probably needs another new roof.
Right. And all I did was similar to what you guys have seen on the buyer side, especially. I filled out something saying I wanted a free online roof estimate based on the square footage of the house and what I knew about the shingles, the age, and all the rest. That is it. And in order to get my free estimate, I had to enter my email address and my phone number.
So what's going to happen? And so just not move past that point so fast. That lead that was Julie Harris was then sold to probably up to 100 different roofing companies. And I bet you at least 25 of those were, guess what? They themselves were lead generation companies who then sold that lead to another 100 different roofing companies and so on and so on and so on. So if you wonder why your buyer leads are no bueno, I just told you. It's because most of them really aren't even leads. They're just names that you're willing to pay money for, hoping and praying that they actually might work out into a transaction for you. Now,
And if they are a lead, they're not your proprietary lead either.
not even close. So here's what's happening in the future. So consumers got sick of all of that. It's kind of, bait and switchy. So what they did is they're now going to all these lead forms. When you go to a website, Julie's now going to the roofing lead website. She's putting in all this, answering all the same questions. And then she's going to be asked a question. From this pull-down menu, which of these roofing companies do you want me to share your information with? She then has to, and let's say there's 20 that show up, she has to give her explicit permission for that roofing company that's 1, 2, and 3 on that list to contact her only about replacing the roof, right? That's what she and do you think consumers are going to be doing that? So all these lead generation companies that are selling you guys leads, their ability to essentially generate leads is going to go in the, it's going to be a dumpster fire for them, but it's really going to be a dumpster fire for all of you who've only been buying buyer leads your entire careers. Trust me, this is coming. I know that hardly anybody other than Julie and I are talking about it. We've talked about it on the podcast 3 or 4 times. I might not have all the legal complexity correct, but the bottom line is learn how to generate your own buyer leads. And the best way to generate buyer leads is by learning to be a listing agent. All of the things that we have been preparing you guys for since Julie and I started this podcast years and years ago are all the chickens are coming home to roost. And it's all happening, really, unfortunately, in the next 12 months or less. So get your game on, especially if you're working on the buyer side of the business. The gravy days they're over.
That's true. And so the one answer to nearly all questions that you struggle with is simply this: be the listing agent.
Be the listing agent. Absolutely. Be the listing agent. And if you're not going to be the listing agent, maybe you only want to work with buyers. And I respect that, right? Make sure you know how to generate your own buyer leads, because now I think we've decoded why a lot of these buyer leads are absolute garbage. Oh, so those of you who are still going to be buying leads from these buyer lead aggregator companies, these lead sellers, what they're going to be doing is because they're going to be generating so many fewer leads, those leads, when they are sending them to you, are going to be ridiculously expensive. You think 43% or 40% referral fees are a lot? What these lead companies are going to start doing is they're going to start charging at least 50%. So you're going to be working with a buyer, and let's say the commission's $10,000. You're going to have to pay 50%, $5,000 to the buyer lead, the referral source. Then you're going to have to, let's assume that you bought that lead direct. You didn't go through your broker. They're not charging an additional referral fee, or your team or whatever. And then you're going to have to pay your broker split. Then you're going to have to pay your personal overhead. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then there's taxes. Many of you on a $10,000 commission, when you're buying buyer leads in the new paradigm, are probably going to be earning less than $2,000, maybe $1,800. That's going to go in your pocket after all your expenses and all the fees. You do not have to suffer like that.
And that's if the listing is paying a normal side of commission. Some of the builders have gone to flat fees, so it could be even worse than that.
You guys, don't wait for what Julie and I are telling you is going to happen, because then it's going to be too late. Learn the skills necessary so that you're prepared for the market. And when these changes are coming, you're going to be like, I got it. No problem. Next. What else you got, market?
That's the common response from our coaching clients. I know, because I called them after a lot of this stuff started bubbling up. Okay, so number 4, mistake, or whatever point we're actually on. Spending too much time chasing down your prospects to set the next appointment. And again, especially on the buyer side. But here's the action steps to resolve spending too much time chasing down your prospects. After a showing appointment where your buyer is not writing an offer, always set the next appointment before they leave the one that you're just ending. Set it for a couple of days out so you have time to find the next homes to show. Drill down further to find out what they liked or disliked about what you just showed them. It's just not for me. That doesn't help you find what they like. You've got to ask more questions.
In Premier Coaching, guys, working with buyers is a whole system. And I truly enjoyed working with some buyers personally.
Sure, of course.
But the thing that we have it's called a 3 times out script. Mm-hmm. where you're going to explain to the buyer that, Mr. Buyer, 99% of all the buyers I work with are able to purchase a house in 3 trips or less. And most times I'm only showing them 2 or 3 houses on each trip. And you might be surprised to hear that I would say 50 to 60% of all those buyers buy one of the first 3 or 4 houses that I show them. And I'm going to explain to you why. I spent a lot of time pre-qualifying you. Well, don't say it like that. But I asked you a lot of questions about what you were looking for. I spent a lot of time looking at the market. I previewed some of these houses. So the properties I'm going to show you, I think you'll agree, are very much in alignment with what you said you were looking for. Now, I will say, I'm going to throw maybe 1 or 2 ringers in. So you said you're looking for a 3-bedroom Cape Cod up to $800,000. Well, I've maybe found something else that's maybe a modern, that's a 3-bedroom that you might that you might like as well. But that's what our job is. And then now here's what's going to happen, listeners. You're going to explain to them, that's the process. What have I done? I've set them up the expectation that you're going to take them out 3 times, only show them 2 or 3 houses each time. Here's a little tail end of that script. So don't be surprised if the first house I show you is the one that checks all the boxes, the one that you've been looking for, because I've spent a lot of time choosing the ones to show you. Now, with that said, Mr. Buyer, remember, bring your checkbook. Be ready to write a deposit, because you walk into a house that you like, chances are there are 5 or 10 buyers that walked in before you did, and 5 or 10 buyers that walk in after you did. So it's really urgent. And there's a no whispering rule. This is if they talk to themselves or if they're talking to each other, if there's
Bonus
2 of them.
script.
No whispering. So when you're walking through a house, I want you to tell me what you think. I need to hear what you guys are saying. And again, if you walk into the first house I show you, and that's the one for you, you've got to tell me so we can write an offer on that property. And don't be surprised. So I give you permission to love the first home I show you, because generally speaking, I would say, 10 or 15% of all the buyers I work with do love the first home I show them. And if you love the first home that I show you, but you want to see the other ones, and after I showed you the 2 or 3 other houses and you want to write an offer on that first one, don't wait until we meet, 2 days from now. You got to tell me today. So again, we can write an offer on that property. Because there's a lot of folks looking for exactly what you're looking for.
Well, what you're thinking about tonight, someone else thought about last night and is making a decision on today.
Exactly. So and then we have another thing called the floor model script and all the rest of it. So if you're finding yourself working with buyers until the cows come home, the reality of it is because you did not set the expectations and take a professional approach to help them, give them permission how to behave. They don't want to work with you every Saturday and Sunday. Well, some of them do. Let's be honest. Some buyers, they're just social buyers. Most of them actually want to work with you.
The serious ones.
Most of them actually want to work with you because guess what? They want to buy a house.
Yes.
And the longer you take to help them find a house, the more homes you show to a buyer, the less likely they're going to buy a house from you. Because what's going to happen is they're going to get frustrated with the fact that you haven't found them a house, even if because you haven't worked with them professionally to explain to them the process. You just keep on setting up showings after showings after showings after showings, and they're going to fire you, and they're going to go buy from somebody that's been a coaching client of ours, and they're going to buy the first house that they see. This is all part of our buyer agent. Really, it's a buyer agent boot camp, buyer agent mastery. It's in Premier Coaching.
Very well said. And there's even more than that. We just get excited about this because this is something that, the buyers deserve that kind of care, especially the ones that are super serious.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. The best thing about working with buyers is, generally speaking, it's faster paychecks.
Yes, that's true. Assuming that you're motivated enough to find it for them and that you're setting those appointments. Okay.
And the right buyers is really fun to work with.
They are, but I have to say, and I do see this as a very common issue amongst coaching clients and listeners and people posting, is the fact that the best buyers, and by best buyers, what we mean is they're highly qualified, they're loan committed, they're all cash, they have to make some decisions. They're looking, unfortunately, sometimes more than the agents are. And those are the very buyers you have to be more careful with, more professional with, do the presentation. They will sign up with you when you have shown your value, and they're ready to rumble. When buyers ghost agents in this market, it's almost always because they've given up on that agent. They're going to go find it on their own. They're going to go to new construction. They're going to go to open houses, or they've hooked up with another agent that's being more proactive.
That's 100%.
And you guys can prevent that. All right. So mistake number, what are we on? 5.7 or something. Okay. Not knowing about new construction. With more than 30% of available homes for sale being new builds, many of which are not in your MLS, you are doing yourself and your buyer clients and prospects a disservice by remaining ignorant about this source. Action steps. You can use newhomesource.com and your own Google search by town or zip code and find out which builders are building in your area. Start your file or a Google sheet where you're tracking the builder or the developer, the price range, the types of homes, the special financing, spec homes, names of sales reps, what's the commission they're paying, et cetera, et cetera. Create your own your own basically new construction MLS guide for yourself.
You and I could talk literally for hours about new construction.
And have on podcasts.
We have. Well, yeah, at this point. Yeah, listen to past podcasts when we do a lot of coaching on it. But if there is new construction in your marketplace, it's not going to be in the MLS, and chances are you're going to lose probably 50 to 60% of your buyers to that new construction for all the right reasons. And the biggest one being it's, new.
Even buyers that you don't think or you haven't asked them.
Or even if they've said they're not interested in new construction.
Yeah, they probably haven't seen it.
Well, they'll say that.
Yeah, then they're going to wander into it just to see what it's like this weekend, and that's it. Game over.
Exactly.
It is easy to like new construction on many different levels. You, listeners who are agents and brokers, should love it too because your inspection nightmares are over, mostly.
And to get to be on the contract and to earn a commission on a buyer side through a builder, you just have to register that buyer with that builder. Mm-hmm. And once you have a relationship with the new build reps, you can do that over text, over email.
There are a few you have to be in person, and that's why you have to keep, I mentioned a Google Sheet here. You should say, what is the builder requirement? Is it an online registration? Is it an in-person registration? Can you text them? Do they have a QR code? What is the skinny? Because they're all a little bit different.
And then send those buyers over to the build rep because really the build rep doesn't want you there anyway for the most part. They just want to be left alone to do their job.
Yep.
And then now your buyers are over looking at new construction. They're going to buy something, and when the house is done, if it's not a spec home, you're going to get paid. I mean, if there's new construction in your marketplace and you're not the new construction guru expert, you're losing enormous opportunity.
Well, it is 31% of the market, and that's been pretty consistent over the past, I'd say, 5 or 6 quarters because I do watch that. It's probably, I would imagine, going to go up from there.
Well, in new construction, most of it's going to be move up price range, which means you're also going to have those new construction buyers are also going to be sellers for you.
Yes, all good. All right, mistake number 6, ignoring open house opportunities. One of the best things about having low inventory is how well open houses work at generating both listing opportunities as well as tons of buyer prospects. If you're not doing open houses regularly, you are literally leaving money on the table for you and you're not helping enough people. So action steps: host open houses following our proven system that you get in coaching every weekend until you have at least 3 closable buyers and or seller clients. Get them in contract, then lather, rinse, repeat. Turn your open houses into a predictable and proven source of business.
Yeah. Look, guys, this is just skimming the surface of all the things you get in Premier Coaching.
Yes.
When it comes to, we're in the spring. It's going to be a tremendous year. There's projected to be 1 million more home sales. I mean, all the wind is that you've ever wanted at your back is at your back. So if you might be in a market where it's a little bit gloomy outside. It doesn't matter. You got to start cracking the whip on yourself and going out there and embracing the market that could be for you, provided, again, you go media free, provided that you're seeing that there's opportunity everywhere, provided that you're having the mindset, being of service mindset for all your buyers and sellers. You are in the right place at the right time. You've got to make this your market. Stop waiting. Stop procrastinating. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Bob, now it's time to work. The fact is that, we've been tapping you on the shoulder for decades now, trying to say, hey, Bob, now it's time to work. And these are the new realities of this market, so make this market your own.
Well, you're part way there just because you're listening to our podcast, right? You're somewhat motivated. You're trying to get in touch with that inner salesperson that needs to get cracking this year. So I have to say kudos and a shout out to taking that step. But some of you are really adamant podcast listeners, and we appreciate you. But then you go back to whatever you were doing and say, that was a great podcast. That's why we give you action steps on the podcast to unlock those gears and to bring your full potential out.
And obviously, the most important action step for all of you is going to be joining Premier Coaching. It's the next natural step in your real estate career. Just go to premiercoaching.com or scroll down and click the link below. It really is, for many of you, going to be the answer to the question that you've all been searching for. How do I become successful in real estate? We've already decoded all of it for you. Just scroll down below, click the link, and join our Premier Coaching community. In the meantime, thank you for keeping this #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.